allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Aaron, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Okay. Then let's get right to our discussion items. The first on the agenda is our cellular phone and personal communication and device policy. And I had sent everybody a marked up version of what we talked about before. There's some red. Everything was good until we got to the definition of stored. And there was some back and forth about that. So Ms. Cleveland went back to the notes and actually, I appreciate it, put all the things that we discussed in red. So if you'll look on page 2, that was one of the things that was in question. So if there's conversation about that, fine. If not, we'll accept it and move on.
Accepting it means to put the red in, make it black. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So we would make the red words part of the policy. If nobody has any comments, we're all good with that. We'll move on. And then the expectations for students, we added words in there as well in red. And we had many conversations about, kind of goes back to the definition of stored, right? And I honestly have gotten a lot of feedback from teachers as well over the last week about this. And I see the point of if it vibrates or you hear it or whatever. So I kind of now am in agreement that it must not be on the person's body. And if we have to take some kind of, I don't know, action to help kids have something to store it in, I don't know what that would be, but we can be creative.
If I can make a statement, Madam Chair.
Sure.
First of all, I wanted to apologize to the board. I did something that it's funny, if I was the chair, I probably wouldn't have done. I talked to, even though I mentioned something to you, Madam Chair, I still ended up asking a question of Mr. Watson, and I should not have done that. So I ask for your forgiveness. That was wrong of me to do that. I've already talked to Ms. Hoover. I know better than that. It's just that I wanted to see his opinion, but I shouldn't have done that. If I can, to say one other thing is, after praying about this and looking at this, I know some of us were rather adamant it may not be in the pocket, and I talked about the bulges and so on. My point is I now, after thinking about this, I wouldn't mind even leaving that statement in red as long as we understood that we don't expect the administrators to, first of all, to search the kids, obviously not, but then also if they just see a bulge in the pocket, we don't expect them to stop every kid if they see a bulge in the pocket. And if we understand that we don't expect administrators to do that, then I would be fine with leaving this as being not in the pocket. Of course, I like the idea of it being visible, as I mentioned last time, but I'd be fine as long as we have an understanding. We don't expect the administrators to call out every kid because they see a bulge or whatever. So that was my point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Anyone have anything to add to that? Everybody's okay to add that?
I'm fine. If I can say, so I'm fine with it either way. I mean, obviously, I'd like it in the black without the red, but I'm okay with the red as long as we as a board have an understanding. We don't expect the administrators to search the kids or call them out with bulges.
Yeah, I don't think that we need to put that in the policy, though, as far as we don't expect you to, pat.
No, I agree. As long as we have an understanding, I don't want to have to us be calling, oh, I was there and there's 3 kids that walk by with a bulge in their pocket and the administrator didn't say anything. I don't. As long as we don't have that expectation.
But I do want to note that it does say out of visible sight as well and powered off.
Oh, that's,
So meaning that if it's in their pocket and we can clearly see it, then that's against the policy and they do need to take action, but not to pat them down in the hallway.
It's kind of at the discretion of the staff, right?
if we leave it as the discretion of the staff, and that's fine. As long as we understand that.
However, if we go into the school often and we're thinking, you know, you can see phones in pockets and stuff, we still as a board have the right to talk to Dr. Boyd about that. Like, we're still seeing a lot of phones up. We're not expecting them to check them, but I'm just saying, like, we shouldn't be seeing, I guess I shouldn't say
If
that.
they're visible,
Yeah.
you shouldn't see them.
Yeah, that's why I like the word visible.
Well, it's in
It's on
there.
there, yeah.
I know, I like leaving it like it's in black. I like that.
Okay. Next.
Okay. Then I just lost my spot, sorry. The next thing was the consequences. So I had a thought, and I think I discussed it with everybody, that if we don't put any of the consequences in, but we just say something along the lines of what Ms. Cleveland put in there, if the student gets a third referral, they'll be asked not to bring a cell phone for 30 days. If it happens, same student again, then students won't be allowed to bring the cell phone to school for the remainder of the year. That way, we're not saying this is the first offense consequence, this is a second offense, et cetera, but we're not going to have 17. And several of us did look at local district policies, and they do have this kind of verbiage in there. So I'm open to feedback. I think we get dangerous when we say first, second, third, because then what's fourth, like fourth, fifth, sixth kind of thing. I just say, if you get 3, then it goes away. And we don't want to tell, administration that they have to take it and be responsible for it or anything like that. But what does the board think?
I'll wait to hear others before I respond.
I think we have to have the consequences to be stern enough to make an impact, just like we had earlier today. We had
Right.
consequences that were stern enough to make an impact. Therefore, I like those consequences that are there. As you said, we checked several schools in the area, and they have those same consequences. And as far as consistency goes, I understand. I'm not sure about this. Dr. Boyd can tell me. Doesn't the middle school confiscate phones?
They do right now.
Then why can't we be consistent and have the high school confiscating phones also? It's just what we're looking at, consistency there. So, I mean, I think the first offense confiscated till the end of the school day, and then the second and the third. What happens after the fourth? That can be left up to the principals that are there to decide that.
So you disagree with saying after the third referral, they can't bring it for 30 days?
I'm sorry?
That's on there.
He said after the 4th, he didn't care.
No. I didn't say after the fourth. It says down here after the third or on the third, they can't bring it for 30 days.
So you agree with that?
I agree with that. What happens after that time?
After that, they can't bring it back for the rest of the year.
That's fine.
That's the thought process.
That's
Then
fine.
they're out of that business after.
I agree with that.
Did you, I know we talked a lot about this last time. Did the administrators see this particular thing that they didn't?
They saw the consequences.
I mean, what you wrote, this third one, they
I
saw
didn't-
that?
I
No,
see
not
it.
the one on the top, no.
That's what I'm saying is they didn't see this first, second, and third offense
So
thing.
they saw that initially when I met with them before the
Right.
last meeting. And the feedback that I got was that it didn't belong there. Something along those lines.
Yeah, that's my,
However, if the board chooses to do that. Now, I didn't go back and ask for opinion after the third referral.
well, again, I'll just repeat the same thing is that I just think that when you get into consequences, whether it's the first, second, third, fourth, whatever, we tie our administrators' hands when the board starts to develop a policy, when they may want to do something even stricter. They may want to do something less strict. They know their schools, they know their students far better than we do. So I just think that we don't need to put consequences there. They're in the handbook. Let them develop them, let them make the decisions, because we've got a very clear policy, and I just don't feel it's the board's responsibility to put consequences. I think that's the administration's.
Okay.
Can I comment on that real quick? So while it's not the board's responsibility to impose their procedures, one of the responsibilities of the board is to govern to make sure that the policies are followed. When we have an administrator come here and tell us that he had to give out 17 referrals to a student, in my thoughts, we failed as a leader, because that is not what we want to see. We don't want to see our students having to or our teachers having to write up 17 referrals for a student. And then obviously our policy isn't working, right? So that's why we're here right now. I will also tell you that Westmoreland, Stafford County, hold on, I know I have more. Culpeper, and there was also another one I had here. Floyd, all have consequences in their policies. So,
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I make a motion that we take a vote on the consequences, just on that one thing that's there?
Can we just go through the rest and then we can vote, because I don't think anything else is gonna, I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but I don't think there's gonna be issue with anything else that, of the changes, then we'll just someone can make a motion to pass as is or not.
Okay.
So if we go down to expectations for administrators, teachers, and other school personnel, we added the word administrators, and then also personal electronic devices, to include everything. A personal electronic device includes.
Madam Chair, can I just interrupt
Sure.
you real quick? Because we actually took out administrators in the exception. We took out administrators needing to be prohibited from having their cell phones, because we feel like,
I see your notes down at the bottom now.
they would
Thank
need
you.
to have those in
Right.
case, of emergency situations, or be able to communicate whatever they need to communicate.
We also had that discussion to add that they could have them, they needed them for academic purposes. Like we discussed, sometimes they're doing evaluations and they would need to have them to take notes on, and I guess, so you're right, sorry about that. And then the exceptions, this is one thing that Ms. Half had shown an issue with, or expressed an issue with, about that they can use the school issued Chromebooks and approved personal laptops. She said they have about 100 students that bring their own laptops, and they kind of manage them the best they can. So those are the only other changes. Were there any issues with any of those changes?
Yes, ma'am. That
Yes.
comment you just made, they manage them the best they can.
Well,
And
that probably came out wrong, but
alarms.
the same controls that are on the network or on those students' laptops, right? But I think, she didn't say that, those are kind of my words. They manage them, but they don't have, the only thing that they can do is prevent them from the network things, right? So, does that make sense?
Shouldn't be an issue if they don't have their phones, because the only way they can go outside of the network, I believe, if I'm correct, is if they can use their hotspot from their phone. But if they're using the school network, they can't do nothing else.
And we have had teachers and staff members tell us that students are using their phones as hotspots. So you're right, they can't bypass. However, at the technology committee meeting, there was a student there that said, there are ways, and
There are, they can put it in
you're
their
just-
backpack, but it's
you're
still
just
on.
not gonna, no, like kids are technology savvy way more than we are. So where there's a will, there's a way, but we can only do our best in
Right.
trying to help. So are all those other things acceptable?
Madam Chair, can I also make another comment about this? I had spoken with one of my friends in another district, and I was talking to her about, the policy that she had in her district and how well it was going. And to my understanding, there was an opportunity for King George County Schools to get those bags that you lock, and unfortunately, we lost
The yonder bags.
grant or whatever that was. So these have been successful to my understanding in other schools. So I also, when I've been thinking about this, the 17 referral situation just blows my mind. But if there is a way, that we can try to get in our budget, since we are at budget time, if that's what's needed to help, it might be a consideration for us because, from the feedback that I've been getting, this has not been, unsuccessful at other high schools. So I just want to make sure that you guys.
Dr. Boyd, don't
I
we
don't
have,
think it's been unsuccessful at our school either. It just hasn't been instant,
Right. And I don't think it's been, I'm sorry, that was the wrong terminology. I don't think it's been unsuccessful. I don't. But I do think it has been a bit challenging. And I do believe it's because we don't really have, I think we lack the parental involvement. And we just need to incorporate that in somehow, where the parents are actually involved in having to come to the school and get the phone if it's taken away.
Yeah.
I know for sure if my kid got their phone taken away and I had to go to the school, they're never having a phone again. So that's what I think.
Madam Chair, can I ask Dr. Boyd a question?
Sure.
Don't we have some of those bags, or you said 30 of them or
They're,
something?
they're like boxes right
Yeah,
now.
boxes.
They're combination boxes that if they violate the policy at the high school, then they take their phone and they lock them in these boxes, and the boxes open up at a particular time. So they're very similar to the Yonder bags.
Are they cheaper?
Mhm.
They're cheaper. Yeah, they're cheaper. The Yonder bags, I think, if I remember correctly, I think they were up to $30 a bag or something like that. $30 a bag. And then I think the boxes were maybe half that.
Yeah, 14 something, I
Yeah.
think they said, yeah.
I think the boxes would work too, Ms. Cleveland, but you have a good point.
Yeah.
And what would we do? We're kind of getting off the cell phone policy here, but would we get a box for every student? Or would we just get like we do now and just give them to the students that can't seem to not touch their phone?
I think we've probably got about 10% of hardcore that are gonna try to keep their phone all the time. So if we get 150 bags for the high school, or 150 bags,
Okay.
I'd rather see the bags than the boxes, but if we get those 150 or whatever, I think that'll be enough.
Okay, we'll have
So
to.
I called about
Yeah.
getting a smaller sum of Yonder bags.
Mhm.
When I spoke with the Yonder folks, they're not interested in selling you 150. But they won't sell you 150 bags. They'll only sell you a school amount of bags. I asked that specific question. That's kind of why we explored the other options, and they're not all great. The Yonder bags there's some issues there too. We're all going to draw a line in the sand, and kids are going to put their toe over it sometimes. But Yonder will not, right now, unless things change, won't sell you a percentage of bags compared to your student population.
Okay. I guess we'll have to address that when we hit the budget discussion. We can say something?
Yeah, well, the other thing, because like Riley called me today from the office phone. He had to go to the office and call me. And I was like, why are you calling me from the office phone? And he's like, because my phone is in my book bag, Mom, like it's supposed to be. And so I feel like maybe how can we help all staff get on the same page and not have some enforcing it and some not, but I guess that's their thing. But that's going to help with the policies and kids not getting referrals and stuff, because if the teacher's allowing it, so how can we help curb that?
Well, I think that's going to be up to Dr. Boyd and the principals to handle that. I don't think,
It's not fair to the kid if the
no.
leader is telling them they can
Well,
do it.
it's nothing consistent then. So, students love structure. They don't going from one classroom to another if it's not the same.
So I want to say, and I think we all know this, that the high school admin has been making effort since, the whole time, I think, but like more of an effort is what I've noticed. Well, besides when we went that one day. Anyways, this is a good step, I think.
I will make a motion to accept the cell phone policy as written with the exception of the following. So I don't know what copy everybody has.
Take out administrator.
I don't know what copy. Okay.
Everybody should have the copy marked in red that you sent me because I sent it to everyone.
Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the policy as written with the exception of, we're gonna take out on the top of the exceptions where it says, do we want to include exceptions? We're gonna take out that after third referral student will be asked to not bring a cell phone. We're gonna accept the consequences as written for first offense, second offense, and third. We are going to take out administrators on the second paragraph of exceptions for administrators, teachers, and other school personnel. We are gonna add underneath that paragraph, or for academic purposes, for them to be able to use the cell phones when on break during their planning time, or for academic purposes. And we are going to add to the exception that students can use issued Chromebooks and approved personal laptops for academic purposes.
So you're suggesting we leave in that may not be in the pocket? I thought we said we were going to keep just the black. Are we going to add the red in that too?
I think we're in a motion right now.
Right, I know, but I want to hear what
Okay,
the
so
motion
to
is.
clarify, yeah, so it would be as written. May not be in pocket, must instead be placed out of sight in a backpack, locker, or locked pouch.
Does anyone want to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Any discussion?
Yeah, again, I was one of the first ones back when I first came on the board. I wanted a cell phone policy, and I do believe we got a good one. I still do not think we should put consequences. I think it ties the hands of the administrators. I realize there's other divisions that have done that. And I do not think that's appropriate just because somebody else has done it. And I would say, as a past administrator, and I'll be willing to bet if you talk to administrators in those schools, they would probably say, I would rather let the administration do consequences. So I just have a major problem with putting these consequences. Everything else I think is fine. But the consequences I do not think is appropriate to do as a board.
So why did we have the last meeting that we were at talking about cell phone policies? I guess what I want to hear you out because I think you're smart and you have a lot of experience. But when we were told what the consequences were and they're 5, 13, winner was 17, like, is that okay?
No, I think the administrators need to do a better job, but I don't think they do a better job by us forcing or telling them, here's the consequences you're going to abide by. You're going to do this in your school.
It's okay to invite them into making our policy.
Pardon?
Inviting them into create our policy is okay, but us not setting guidelines of what we expect because we weren't getting the results we were hoping for the first time.
So
Like, where do we step in and say, okay, we're not getting the results? Where do we govern?
we govern by, if we do not think
We're
that,
not getting the results.
okay. I think that they need to have consequences, absolutely. I think they need to be in the handbooks of what those consequences will be. If those consequences are not working and we as a board see that, then they need to change, and we need to make sure through Dr. Boyd that they will change those because they're not effective, they're not working. Allow them the ability to make the consequences worse, maybe far worse than what we see here. Maybe easier, better. In other words, my point is, give them the freedom to be able to make those decisions. And if they're not, I agree with you, Colleen, if they're not, then they need to change them. And we go through, say, Dr. Boyd, we've been to the schools and these aren't working. So what are their current consequences? Well, you need to tell them that they need to make changes in them, but allow them the freedom to be able to make those changes. That's my point.
So, Ms. Hoover, you had suggested that in the beginning, but there's something missing. You said take out 4. I don't see the 4.
Well, it's on the original one that we had. It didn't have what's on the top of. Do you have the one that's marked up in red?
Mhm.
Okay. It didn't have that first paragraph where it says after third referral student will be asked to not bring a cell phone to school for 30 days. We didn't have that. I just put that in because I wanted to have it as a discussion because Kathy asked me to.
My thought is we don't put consequences to first, and Ed and I had this discussion and we disagree. I don't think we should put first, second, and third and tell them what to do. I just think if you get 3, you don't bring your phone for 30 days. And if you get another one, you don't bring it back the rest of the year. And I think that's an acceptable consequence because now we're giving them leeway to control the first 3, but if anybody that gets more than 3, then we're stepping
You
in.
understand, I think these consequences are great. I just think the administrators need to do them, not the board. That's it.
No, I understand.
And I'm on the same page a little bit with you, but what I don't like is that you're saying, hey, we're crossing in a procedure, but then you're telling them that they can cross over into policymaking.
No.
Yes, by saying, have you talked to them? Have you given this to them to review? So it makes
It's
me,
just that there, I guess,
and when I talk to you later, you say, yeah, you have a good point, but then you go right back to saying it again.
no, you're misunderstanding things.
Well, I'm not misunderstanding.
Well, I guess what we need to decide is as obviously we're not going to come to,
No, I think, yeah, we just have to make a
Unanimous.
motion to vote on it, but I like the 3, I think it's a fair compromise, but in their defense, we're here for a reason.
right.
I like what you said, maybe give them an opportunity, because here's the thing, they get the 30 days, don't bring a phone back, and what do they do if they bring another phone back?
A different,
You can't suspend the kid for it, so then what? Now it's back to this, what, do they come to the school board for, whatever?
This one does input some parental involvement. So I imagine that when parents are coming to get their cell phones every day, it probably won't happen as often.
I think we need to
So
think about it if it does, though. Like, I like the 4th one being in there, or being at the 3rd at least. Like, your phone's gone for the year. But then what happens if they bring another one?
Madam Chair,
yes.
there's been a motion and second. Can we?
We're in
We'll have a
discussion.
discussion.
let me ask you a question about that real quick, because it doesn't include in the 3rd. It says, in addition, for a period of 30 calendar days, the student shall be banned from.
Yeah,
Okay, but it doesn't say
year.
for the year.
That's what I was asking you in the very beginning, and I got off track. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do we need to include that?
So I guess it would be after the 4th referral instead of after the 3rd. So we have the 3rd down there. So we can take all those away and say after the 4th referral, the student can't bring it back until the end of the year. I don't know. It's just a thought. If we have a unanimous decision to make it the other way, then that's fine.
Oh, I see what you're saying, though. If we take out the parental involvement, it's going to be back at square one all the time, constantly. Yeah. You see, and that to me is making a parent come in would really help enforce the policy.
Yes, and so that would, we can't search them when they come to school. So at the end of the day, if they do bring it back and they're using it, then every single time their parent's going to have to come and get the phone.
At that point, yeah. Or, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been made and properly seconded. And any more discussion? Okay, then let's take a vote. Mr. Bush.
No,
Ms. Con-
I really want to pass one. Just being an administrator for 15 years in secondary schools, just don't like the idea of a board telling the administrator, you must do these consequences.
Okay,
Hate
Ms.
to vote no.
Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Frank,
Yes,
Ms. Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay, we have an unanimous decision.
You gotta vote.
Oh, I vote yay.
Well, it's not unanimous.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
4-1.
4-1.
And then, Madam Chair, we need a copy. We don't have a copy of the policy.
You're right. Can you send him that? I'm sorry.
So-
Thank you for doing that.
Madam Chair, so what I'll do, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with the one that I have, I'm going to make the edits on and I'll send it to you guys as well. So if there's any issues with what I typed up, you'll see it before it goes to Jesse. Dr. Boyd.
It took me a whole year to do that.
I do need the copy that you're using now.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll forward it to you.
all right. Now that that's done, we can move to the FY 25-26 budget discussion.
Yes, Madam Chair. So hopefully everybody brought their lovely budget book. So we talked about the budget timeline a little bit earlier. We have some, we're here, Ms. Williams is here tonight. I think everybody knows Ms. Williams. She's our finance director. Myself and Aaron are here, and we're certainly willing and able to field any questions from the board on the budget request. I know in my mind, one of the biggest questions we need to answer tonight is the healthcare question. And then really, as I talk to my superintendent comment, hopefully we can get to a place tonight where we're in a relative agreement with what modifications we may or may not need to make to the budget so that we could possibly have a special meeting before the Board of Supervisors meets. So with that, I'll stop and take this in any direction the board would like to go in.
My question, Mr. Frank mentioned to me, if we had a meeting next week, would there be any opportunity, do you think, to have the Board of Supervisors attend and have it a joint discussion like we did before, or are we just running out of time?
That typically would probably be after it's presented to them.
Okay.
And maybe I could work, if that's the request of the board, I can request that from Mr. Smolnick and see if we could have a work session after it's presented to them, which would be March timeframe.
We normally have that every year.
We've had it every year that I've been here. Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was here the first year I was here, but we've had it the last 3.
Well, why don't we talk about I don't know if anybody has a preference, but I think the healthcare is a big thing that we have to talk about. And I just like to kind of get a feel for where everyone stands. I know I could go first, or I can let somebody else go first. Do you have a preference, Mr. Frank? How do you feel about it?
This is a big
I know.
This is a
I
big.
know.
We need to, how much is, if we take on the full 20%, what's that going to cost us?
So that's in the table you're looking at right now. If you take on the full 20%, then it's going to be $1,112,715. $1,112,715 would be the cost to the school board.
And what are we paying now that we took on the 11%?
Right now, our cost this year is $5,563,577.
So we're doubling.
It wouldn't be I said 5 million. We would be adding an additional million. So right now we're at 5.5 million. We're at 5.5 million right now. And if we took on the 20%, that would be an added 1.1 million.
But right now we're paying, or last year we paid 11%.
Correct.
Right. And how much additional, do you know how much we paid last year?
What the bottom line was in terms of that? Remember what that was? I want to say 565 or somewhere in that ballpark.
So we're talking about doubling what we paid last year.
That's a good way to look at it. Yes, sir.
I just feel like if we're working so hard to give them more money, right? And yet this expense is going to take away any money we give them. So I know it's a huge amount of money and it's an estimated 20%. There's still a possibility that could be less.
That's a good point.
I have a question about that, actually. So is there a way to bid it to other people, or do we just have to be stuck with this one carrier?
We can bid it. In fact, that's why we partnered with Mark III last year. The gentleman that spoke to us, Heath Thomas, he is our broker. Has done a good job by us so far. He really takes a look at a number of different metrics. The point he was trying to make to us right now is because of our current usage, we're not that strong of a candidate to bid it out. We certainly can. I can tell you in terms of the state, what we have right now, local choice, is what most public entities use because it's known to be the least expensive, most quality option that's out there. Many school divisions, many local governments, our local government all uses local choice. Local choice is going out to bid in terms of the provider right now. So that's a variable that's still out there that we're waiting to hear some more information about. I think Heath's recommendation right now is that we're probably in a place where we need to stay in terms of going out to bid, but probably next year or something like that, it might be a good time to look at it.
If you remember, I asked him that exact question. I said, would it be better, or is there a chance that we would save money by looking at another vendor? And he said no.
So I do recall that, but what I'm saying is, do we have to use him? Is there another
Oh,
person that we can use?
Oh, rather than him as the broker. I see. I thought you were talking about the insurance company. I am sorry.
Because some brokers only have the ability to broker out to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible for us to, I mean, we can have a relationship with him as well, but give it to somebody else to see if they can do better?
I think we certainly could, right? We're in a contract with them, but
Yeah.
that's for third-party benefits. So
How long is the contract?
that's something we can look into. I know right now it's late in terms of doing that for this cycle. We've dove into this in different places in the past. We oftentimes come up short with some other things, but another vendor, or excuse me, not another vendor, but another broker. That's a possibility. I mean, there's some out there that work with school divisions that we've seen at VSBA and stuff, but
isn't it a little bit late? I mean, I don't even know how we would accomplish that this year.
that would be a next year. That would be a
It would
next.
have to be next year, I think, Miss Cleveland.
Because
But
of when the contract.
and also, if you remember, he did say that it will probably be less. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And I just know that brokers only have the ability to broker out to who that they do business with. So there is other companies. I don't know about the school and how that works with the government and
I
their
don't think he's.
contracts, but I do know that most brokers can only broker out to the people that they broker to.
Are you sure of that? I'm not. Is that right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I had never heard that before. No, I know that's true in some cases, but you're
Yeah,
saying.
maybe he can use all of them. I don't know, and that could be a question for him.
Yeah, could you? We could
But-
find
Certainly
that.
check with them. Yeah, I mean, we've had
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Well,
Yeah.
because Mr. Rolls talked about this last year already. So it had been brought up last year to start looking at.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying is maybe we can start doing that for next year.
And he's
options.
interested in helping us out with that, and we can also go and we'll start
it
with
didn't
asking
look
Heath,
good, though.
what type of network he has access to.
It's an excellent question. I assumed he wasn't limited, but you might be right.
Well, and he may not be, but in my experience,
Mhm.
most brokers are limited to the only people they can broker to. And in my experience, you have to have a relationship with them, and there's like paperwork involved to be able to broker to those particular people. So there
right.
might be other companies that he doesn't have
That's a
that.
good point. And
And I don't know if it's that way with this or not, but it's worth looking
Not just
into.
that- Yeah.
I always say get 3 bids. So although he has, this broker has all these different bids he's doing, there might be a couple other brokers that can bid out too.
Okay.
A lot of time, the reason for the rate increase is because of our internal claims. So that's something to think of, like, even if he can get us somebody else can get us a lower rate, there's still a possibility of the percentage going up because of the number of claims that's the reason for the increase. So where does the board stand on, I know last year we had numbers on if we pay 10%, if we pay 50%, if we take it all. I kind of want to get a feel for how everybody feels about just paying the difference and not paying the difference.
Dr. Wood, what, we're talking a little over 500 or almost $600,000. What would we have to cut in order to pay that? Where would that money come from?
In order to pay
The whole full 20%?
the full 20% is $1.1 million.
No.
So we'd have to look at our budget and figure out what, it would be up to us.
Where would we cut that?
Yeah,
Right.
where would we cut the difference between, last year we paid 5 something. This year we got to pay 1.1, so that's another 550, say. So where's that 550 that wasn't used last year going to come from this year?
So if you take a look at your budget book,
You've already done.
yeah, the presentation, really the major differences is probably the best slide to look at right now, and that is towards the end, right before the revenue and expenditure slide. It's this slide right here. And it looks like this.
That's it.
It's probably about 2/3 of the way through. It's page 20.
It's towards the back. Oh,
Yeah, keep going towards the back. Okay, what this slide shows you is kind of a summary of the major cost increases. Keep going, Ed.
That
A
extra
couple
4
more,
million,
couple
yeah.
more.
But you've already put in, while he's looking for that, the 20%, you did already put that in there.
Yeah, so let's see. One or two more pages. Right there, stop right there at the top. Yep. So if you're looking at that, what you see is the major differences and the major costs summarized in this table here. The first major cost is the raise. So this is a question to the board. I guess I'm posing it back to the board. If we were to pick up the whole cost, you see the second row there, the health insurance premium increase, that renewal rate at 20%. That's the school division. That's the school board picking up the entire $1.1 million. I think what I heard you say, Mr. Frank, is if we paid what we paid last year, where can we find $500,000? The answer is in this table, and it's posed to you because we can take. I'm not saying these are good options, but we can take $500,000 out of the compensation increase, meaning, actually, I don't even think this is a viable option. We couldn't give less than 3% because the state's asking us to match that compensation rate. You have the compression issue that we're trying to address. If we didn't address compression, there's $436,000. If we went deeper into, I'll skip healthcare because I already talked about that, but the budget builder, that's in your budget book. That's the brightly colored kind of rainbow presentation of all of the stuff in the budget book. We could dig into that and find some savings if we had to. That's the stuff of the budget. And then finally, on the last page of the budget book, you've got staff positions. We continue to increase the number of students in the division. We've got 80 more students in the school division than we had last year. If we continue to lean on cutting staff positions, then all we're doing in effect is increasing class size. We continue to increase class size if we cut staff positions.
Can't do that.
I can tell you that typically in the past, when we have this conversation with the Board of Supervisors and we talk about, where we're going to land in between, we always think it's a priority to cover the compensation increase because the state is contributing a certain amount of money for that. That's like the first priority, making sure we cover the raises. Mm-hmm. We wrestle over healthcare a little bit, but when we fall in the middle, we're asking for $4.1 million total. When we fall in the middle at like $2 million, then what we typically cut short over previous budget years is the stuff in the budget, that $1.5 million there in this budget summary, in the new positions. We've done that over the last couple years. So when we increase by 80 students every year because of our capacity, and we're dealing with our capacity issues, if we continue to cut staff positions, we're just increasing class sizes. So I know that this is kind of a negotiation, but I don't want us to stop short of understanding that we need to add teaching positions right now.
and over the years, if we don't, like last year, we didn't add as many as we should have, and the year before, then that adds up. And now we're at 30 plus kids a room. So I would propose that we look through the budget builder tab, and everything obviously is important, right? And just see where we could maybe cut, I don't know, something.
We turn to page 13 though, where he broke down.
Can I address that too?
Sure.
What we've done in the past is we will go back to the department heads here and we will say to them, we want you to cut your budget by whatever, 10%, 15%, 20%. They've got those eyes that they know exactly what they're looking at. And if we agree on an agreeable percentage or something in that ballpark, I can take that recommendation from the board and take it back to our supervisors and say, here we are, you need to cut 20% or
You're
whatever
right.
it may be.
Sorry about that. I forgot we did that.
Do we
Yeah.
know if this renewal rate was the same for all divisions, or is this 20% just King George? What Stafford has?
So the rate's dependent on, do you remember when he get,
Yeah.
Depending, because we have a lot of sick people.
Well, no, we only have 30 sick people
but they're very,
out of
They're
715.
very sick.
Probably a handful of them are very sick. Yeah.
So to your question, we don't know what other rate increases are yet right now. We'll probably know within about a month, I think, is usually the time frame for this. I've asked Mr. Smolnick. They don't know their county increase yet because that's important to us as well to figure out where they are. They're still waiting to figure out what their rate increase is. We just know that ours is estimated at 20%. We hope it comes in less than that, but we don't know yet.
Dr.
Didn't he
Boyd.
say, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
When I asked him this question, I asked when, and I thought he said March. He will know.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's
what he
right
said.
around,
It was
it's right
the
around the
beginning of March. And so
Yeah.
20%, the way he was explaining it seemed to be the maximum. It seemed like he was indicated almost for sure it was going to be less.
18%. He
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
Yeah, that,
He said about 18.
Did he? All right.
I think it's safe to plan for the high end. And if it comes
no, I
in
agree.
less, that's wonderful. That's a cost savings. We certainly wouldn't want to plan for less and then have to figure it out.
No, I'm
the top end of that.
disagreeing.
I don't know.
I want to look at the compression. I think let me ask you a question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Going back to teacher salary, a comparison 2020 bachelor's degree, years 5 and 10, I'm assuming we're low because of the compression. I'm looking at this page right here.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So when we look at, comparing us to all the rest of the divisions around us, we're good where we should be, except because of the COVID and the compression situation. And if we don't correct this, the teachers between that 5 to 10 year mark, those are our key teachers. And so I'm only saying that we have got to do the compression this year. We can't put it off any longer. It's got to be done. And then once it's done, we won't have to worry about it. Well,
It's going to take a few years to address.
Take a few years to it, but at some point, probably in about 5 to 10 years from now, we won't have to worry about it.
Yeah, so what David is referring to is this slide here that shows our average teacher salaries. And what you see is the highlighted cell is the lowest salary in those particular years. You have year 1, year 5, year 10, all the way up to year 30. These two cells here that are highlighted we don't want to be highlighted there. That's an unfortunate number because what that's saying is that King George, among all of our competing school divisions,
We're the
has
worst.
the lowest salaries in the region at years 5 and years 10. That's the compression issue we're talking about. And it's really an inopportune time to have that compression because it's a pivotal time for professional adults. You're 5 years in, you're 10 years in, you're trying to figure out if you want to stay in this profession.
Correct.
You're trying to figure out if you want to start a family and make some major life choices, if you want to move to King George. All of those are decisions around year 5 to year 10 of teaching. So right now, the fact that we're the lowest in the region in terms of teacher salary is a tough pill to swallow for some of our educators.
So I liked Kathy's recommendation, and I think you hinted at it. In the budget bill to request that 1.5 million, what do you suggest that if we, as a board, did ask you to go back to the administrators, what would you think would be more palatable or less palatable in a percentage that they might be able to cut? If we kept everything else. That's a tough one, I know.
Yeah,
The high school asked for 42,000, I think
Yeah.
it was.
Which is not much.
Not much at all.
Yeah, but Potomac didn't ask for anything.
yeah. Usually, it's elementary schools will ask for almost nothing.
Right.
Middle and high is a little more expensive because of the added activities and things. But really, it's our other departments. Like if you look at the summary page, maintenance is the highest request by far. That's an area. We've got maintenance issues coming up. We've really dove deep into our contract with Honeywell and taken a greater appreciation for our HVAC systems and the ages of those things. So in consideration of that, we've kind of pumped up our maintenance request because Some of our equipment's getting old in terms of our HVAC system. It's a risk, but that's a possibility.
I just don't want to see teachers walk because we're not.
Yeah,
I
if you,
don't want to see that.
If you look at the
So, I
page
mean-
13,
Birchville, Virginia, that's 144,000.
144,
Is that something that we have to do? How many people? You said there was 30?
100.
Okay, so you're talking about the new position, the director position.
Right, 100.
We can, it's not ideal, but we can run that program without having a director for the first year. If this program grows, which we hope it does, because there's value to not only addressing our capacity issues, but also attracting our homeschool community back into our public. There's a lot of value there if this program grows, but I think we could get by a year. We are putting extra workload on our school counselors and things of that nature, but we could get by without having that virtual director for a year. Stafford does this program now. They have a director. She's expressed to us the demands of that job. We would have to lean on our guidance counselors to do some of that stuff, but we could do it.
Can we, sorry, Karen.
Yeah, see, all of these things, they're
No,
tough.
I mean, you
They're
wrote
tough.
off the shared increase costs. If we did the shared increase, which you put on here on page 13, if anybody's wondering, what would that help cover as far as the teacher pay and everything? If we did it, the 85, 15%.
Okay, so take a look at this paper here.
Oh.
All right, back to the healthcare question. So on the far left, you'll see so that's the table on the far left that has the blue title block, right? That's our current setup for healthcare. You have our plans. You've got in the highlighted red, you got Key Advantage 250, Key Advantage 500, all the way down. All of those are our plans. And then if you dive into each one of those, you can see, I'm going to use Key Advantage 250 as an example. The employee only, the school board cost for the employee only there is $740 a month. And the employee, coming out of the employee's paycheck, is $115. I just give you that
I
example.
do understand. You told me that. What I was trying to figure out is what's the difference of the full 20% versus the 15%? And
Okay.
it's like almost $1 million.
So look over to the far right. At the bottom on the far right, if the school board picks up the entire cost, on the bottom there, it's $1,112,715. It's small text. I can't even see it. You see that?
In the middle.
In the middle column, all the way down to the bottom.
Yes.
The cost to the school board is going to be 1.1 million. If you go over to the right and use the same cost sharing structure that we currently have, the cost to the employer, which is the school board, would drop to $997,165, which would be a cost savings of $115,550.
So would that be worth it? 115,000.
That's the question. And then if you looked at that whole section over there, you can see the increased cost to the employee based on the plan that they choose. So for example, the Key Advantage 250 employee only, their healthcare is going to go up $23.02 every month. So if you're asking, is it worth it? That's the increased cost to the employee. Okay, so are we going to lose an employee because now they're paying $23 more a month for healthcare? And what is the value to us as the school board? The value is $115,000.
Try to give back to them in a different way.
Yep.
But I think another question is when we look at the teacher salary comparisons, this isn't total compensation. So really it's not a true comparison because we don't know what the total compensation is for the other school divisions. We know that we pay, the full healthcare cost, but does Stafford, Spotsylvania, Colonial Beach, do we know that? So that's also something to consider here.
Yeah, we have an idea of what their healthcare costs are. Usually, I mean, in teacher compensation, those are really your total. Those are your two factors. It's your salary and it's what we're covering for healthcare. We've pulled their healthcare costs. Usually your larger school divisions are pretty competitive with healthcare. Stafford and Spotsy are pretty competitive. Would that be a correct assumption? And then usually down the Northern Neck, to your point, they're paying more. Their employees are paying more for healthcare.
I mean, healthcare is going up.
Healthcare,
Everyone's healthcare is going up.
got it. And it's gonna,
It's going to continue.
it's
to.
probably gonna keep going up. I mean, it's something to think about,
But like you said, we can't keep pushing off fixing the steps for 5 and 10. Those are our seasoned employees that are leaving because they're not, yeah. So it's a hard thing.
hard thing.
'Cause we're always going to have this increase happening every year.
I think a healthcare increase is something that,
So if we
Those folks-
did if we did say the teachers will take the responsibility for this increase, which would be somewhere between $23 a month, or if it's a family, 137. Do you personally think that would have a very negative effect? Because it doesn't seem that much, especially for a single employee, compared to us saving $115,000.
Yeah, but I mean, if we're gonna, reality is, if we're gonna ask for, or spend $1 million, 112, or $1 million, it seems that 115,000 seems minimal. And if our goal, I think our number one strategic goal is what?
employee investment.
So how are we standing behind that if we're not investing in?
No,
our
I was just
employees?
asking a question. I'm not disagreeing. I'm just, the thing is the compensation to me, the compression to me at this point is almost more important
Yeah.
than the insurance cost because it's minimal. But you're right, $115,000 compared to a million, 1.1 is,
It's not minimum with the family side. I agree with what you're saying, except for the family. That hurts a little
the
bit.
family, I think, yeah. If I was a individual employee and I had to pay $23 more a month for my insurance, I would think, well, yeah, I expect that. That's what's my point. Now, a family, maybe a little different.
And then, I mean, I know kind of getting off topic here, but take into consideration that you have one parent working, one parent at home raising kids, and they're working on a teacher's salary. And now that, I'm sorry, $23.02 a month, well, that's just a single person, but $100 a month is a lot when they make $75,000 a year.
Oh,
No, I don't think anybody makes maybe 60, 50.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah.
I think I stand by my let's go.
We
and
paid it the
let's-
last 2 years. We've taken on the whole cost.
Yes, we have.
Well, and part of this too is, even if we just present everything like it is, the odds are pretty good that there's a chance we're going to have to come back after it's presented to the Board of Supervisors. We're going to have this discussion again. I think part of what I'm thinking is you've done a good job putting all this together. Maybe we should just go with this with the 20%, knowing it'll probably be a little bit less, hopefully. But we know we're going to have this discussion again. And the next discussion might even be a joint meeting between us and the Board of Supervisors and talking about all this together.
I think that's a good point to see also with the Board of Supervisors of what their costs are going to end up being because, they're probably going to have some thoughts on this as well. And maybe we can work together to come up with a solution since they're going to be affected with the same issue. And considering that they're going to have to, we're going to have to ask them for more money.
Well, and also hear what they're giving their employees.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like we need to find
That's
out.
my point is
Yeah.
maybe just go with this like it is because we're going to have to and let Mr. Smolnick present that and then having this joint meeting afterwards and then ask the question, what are you doing for your employees for insurance? Because insurance is the big one.
Mm.
I did talk to some of the board of supervisors. It's looking like half, or they're almost willing to like half of what we're asking. So out of the 4 million, looks like we're going to be given 2 of that. Well, that's
just
talk.
That's a,
That's just talking. Yeah.
and maybe between now and our next meeting, we could each reach out to our prospective
Yeah.
Board of Supervisor and just explain, because I know some just say, that's how it is. They got to pay it. They can leave, and that's not how we feel. We need to invest in our staff. So
Maybe even have some of the 2x2 meetings if we could. I know it's so hard to do schedules. I know.
I think we need to talk more about those 2x2 meetings. We can do that after this, but we need to talk about that.
Yeah, it affects this. Yeah, I agree with you. The more communication we can have, the better.
well, if somebody wants to, I mean, I don't have any more time to coordinate meetings. If somebody wants to take that on and schedule meetings, I'll,
Kathy, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I know you and I tried to do it, with our two prospective people, and that one of them is just impossible. The other one was, and maybe I'm thinking, try to do the 2x2. If you can't, then do 2x1. You know what I mean? If you can't get everybody, then go with 3.
Or a phone call. It's better than nothing.
That's true.
Or yeah, maybe 3 in a phone call or whatever. But I think maybe we need to be meeting individually with them even before we have this joint meeting. And I'll try to do that maybe with the person that you and I contacted. We're missing one. Maybe the person could call in and the 3 of us will meet.
Okay.
Bill and TC said nobody's reached out to them, and I don't want to be, I'm just saying, so there's.
I was just sitting here thinking that I would reach out to, because I know certain people on the Board of Supervisors have lighter schedules too. And the one that I'm thinking about probably is going to be the hardest on the budget. So
Yeah.
I have not reached out.
So Madam Chair, every one of the Board of Supervisors and the County Administrator have a copy of the budget book. You guys, I'm always available, but I think you're well versed in the budget book now. So that is probably the best tool you can use right now to advocate for the things that we need in the school division. If I'm hearing you guys correctly, I think I'm hearing you guys correctly. Would we be willing to make a motion tonight to approve the budget as presented right now? And then we will wait to get some more feedback from the Board of Supervisors. That way we've got an approved budget that the county administrator can present.
Ms. Cleveland, were you going to say something? No? Does anyone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we approve the budget as presented.
Second.
Any discussion?
We've had a lot.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I think Ed wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
No, you wanted, we did talk.
Well, I do think it's important, the 2x2, and if we can't do 2x2, let's do 3x1 or whatever, or phone calls or
Can't do
online.
3x1.
Yeah, and then also the discussion about, what was the other thing? It was mentioned at the beginning.
Or at the beginning, we talked about social promotions, but that.
Oh, no, that's
I
a
think we need
regular
to talk
board
about
meeting.
that now.
Yeah.
But goals, we talked about goals earlier. Are we still
Oh, yeah.
planning?
Oh, we were supposed to, that's not on the agenda for tonight.
I know, but
And I never got any feedback from anyone. I sent an email out and
You
said,
did.
and let's establish some goals. Everybody send me some, I'll organize them and
Well, I
So-
think it's because there's so many, the couple of this
Sure.
budget was a big one, the cell
Sure.
phone and so on. Yeah, I think we can get back to you this week.
I've got mine.
you didn't send them to me.
I know.
Okay.
We're going to talk about one more, sorry, about the possibility of us, Dr. Boyd, you had mentioned in the other meeting about the possibility of us needing to meet before, like meeting again, but we don't really need to now.
We won't need to meet now until we get some feedback from the Board of
Okay, good,
Supervisors.
Good, all right. Just want to make sure we're okay with that.
Okay, I have a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. We are adjourned.
Oh.
Good work, guys.